Welcome in, everyone. My name is Mark Reel Jr., the Fathers Rights Attorney, and you are watching another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook. On today's episode, I'm here with partner at Real Fathers Rights, Ryan Dreyer, and we're going to talk about defending false allegations. Ryan, how are we doing today?
Outstanding. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So one of the biggest challenges that the men we represent face are the false allegations, whether they come in the form of request for domestic violence restraining order, or they just come up during their divorce or custody proceedings. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about the different situations that we see these false allegations come up in?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times it's a he said, she said, right? And so we have to do something to take it out of the he said, she said. So the first thing we look at, are there any third-party witnesses? Did anybody see anything? Will they testify? Can they testify truthfully for you? Or are they going to side with the other side? If they side with the other side, then we have to go after bias, shake their credibility, other kinds of things. The next type of evidence we have, or the way we combat false allegations, is through video evidence. Is there a ring cam? Are there cameras in the house? Is there a camera on a computer that caught something? Or did you bring out your phone and start recording?
Yeah.
The next way that we combat false allegations is to look at, are there text messages, photos, emails that are contemporaneous to the incident, or right before or right after. So if someone said that you were in a rage and you were so aggressive to them, and you can show a text message that's like, hey babe, love you, how you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Or if they sent you a text message after this incident where, gosh, we've been getting some where allegedly the client raped their significant other. Nothing's said about that, and it's just, hey babe, dinner's at home, or hey, what do you want to get to eat tonight? This casts doubt onto their story, because what we're trying to do, especially in a he said, she said, is shake their credibility. So if we can find documentary evidence to the contrary, that's where we need to go. Now, we also have the specter of financial coercion that has been brought up in recent changes to DV law. When we're looking at that, we need to be looking at, all right, do they have access to credit cards? Can we look at bank statements? Can we look at credit card statements? Can we look at the fact that they were a signer on an account, or that they had access to a bank card on that account? Also looking at, all right, were they able to shop? I mean, I've had some where they said that they weren't allowed to get a haircut unless the man said so, or they weren't allowed to shop unless the man said so. And on that, then we can also look at third parties and look at, we can contact hairdressers, we can contact stores, right? There's video cameras literally almost everywhere now.
I think one of the biggest changes we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years is everything, or pretty close to it, is truly on video. I know my neighborhood, I don't know if there's a house that doesn't have a Ring doorbell on it. I don't know many people with kids that don't have some sort of cameras inside their house. And then the specter of, like, if stuff goes down now, everyone pulls their phone out.
Correct.
So we've ended up with, I just think of situations where things have been completely fabricated. Then it turns out like there's a video of the incident and it's completely the opposite. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think I can only imagine 15, 20, 25 years ago, pre-cell phones, pre all of this technology, it truly was he said, she said.
Yeah, absolutely. And the specter that I'm looking at, or the future, is deep fakes, AI-driven videos, right? I still haven't got the client yet where I'm going to get shown a video and they're going to say, that absolutely didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what's the future of that? Are we going to have to start bringing in experts to prove that a video wasn't true, or it was a creation of AI?
That'll be interesting going both ways, because does it reduce the credibility of video, and is that something you can just throw out there and then make someone hire $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 expert to mess with that? I think that the biggest, and I'll turn away from the video, I think one of the more interesting pieces, a lot of times when it's he said, she said, you have to attack the credibility, because in family court, unfortunately, it's not like criminal court and getting convicted, and most of these DV allegations, there's no way a district attorney would ever even pick up the case. There's no way. But the other side's looking to get to 50% and a little bit more of, like, this happened to get a restraining order granted. But I know you've had a lot of success with, we talked a little bit about earlier about the messages, texts, and multiple phone calls and different things around an alleged incident. Woman alleges she was raped, but then there's a text message the next morning after she's left for work saying, like, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, lunch is in the refrigerator. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of looking into kind of the context around an allegation.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely, you have to. I mean, that's when I first get in the case and I say, okay, this is the date this occurred. I need every text before, after, during. Right? Because you have to be able to set the stage. When we're really talking about this, we're trying to paint a picture. They're trying to paint a picture of them as an abuser. You have to paint the picture of like, no, everything was normal and this is a fabrication. Or we need to show things that show motive. Like, hey, watch out, or you're going to pay for this. Things like that, right? Because people lose their temper. The other thing is social media posts, right? Social media posts are gold, right? I mean, we've found a lot of stuff that will directly contravene, like, hey, he physically assaulted me this day. Oh, but here's your pictures from Knott's Berry Farm. You said he choked you the day before, and here's you with a neck that is free of bruising, free of anything else. Or, hey, here's a picture right after that together. Yeah. Or here, everybody at Disneyland the next day.
Well, we had a case a little while ago where she made an allegation on a specific date, and then there were pictures on social media of the following day, and she had put pictures out there saying this was the bruising from the incident, but the following day in public with the kids and everything else, she's free of bruising.
Correct. So, I mean, there's no limit to the way that you can attack it. You can also have people say, hey, have a witness that said, you spent the next day with them. Did you notice anything? Anything that where we can shake that story. And that's why it's so key to get the story out. And sometimes you're going to need to do discovery before that. And that's a new Family Code section, 6309.
Terrible Family Code section.
Terrible Family Code
Poorly
section.
thought out.
Yeah, and it's actually more concerned with the rights of the accuser than the accused.
So for the listeners, viewers, so this section of the Family Code essentially says you're not allowed to just do discovery. If you are accused of domestic violence and you want to do any form of discovery, depo, you want documents, you want text messages, you want anything, you actually have to go to the courts and get their approval to conduct that, which further delays things.
Which is the travesty, right? So especially where it's terrible is during this time, especially if it's been granted, you're not seeing your kids, you're sleeping on someone's couch. If you have the funds, most people don't. You're sleeping in a rented apartment or a hotel, and then you've got to wait even longer. You've got to wait that 21 days to get to court. Then you have to ask for discovery. And so a lot of people are like, no, I can't handle that anymore. But what is that compared to a 5-year restraining order? I mean, if you can get that evidence, you need to take the time to get that evidence. And it puts a person who's been falsely accused in a horrible position, and it's an unjust position, right?
It's terrible, and we get it. All the laws, all the rules, everything around it, it's advantageous to the accuser. I mean, everything from if you get accused of domestic violence and you defeat it, but the judge has a little bit of inkling, like you may not be able to get attorney fees, but if they win even wrongly, which I think happens far more often than people want to address, they automatically get attorney fees.
Correct. Now, I will caution you, you still want to make sure that you challenge them on the reasonableness of their fees, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is crazy because you have to show, if you defeat them, you have to show that it was basically specious, like there was no bearing whatsoever in truth for it. And usually there's an inkling. And
there's some sort of argument, there's some sort of something they can point to that at least gets in the vicinity because of how broad, or truly broad, our domestic violence laws are at this point.
Right. And so I think that's where you start, is there's usually a scintilla of truth in a false allegation. And it takes an incident and it conflates it, or it exaggerates it, right? And so that's where, at least though, when you have something like that, you can say, yes, that did exist, but here are all the reasons why that is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So it makes it very difficult. I think the key is to marshal all your resources, because if you're going to be required to get the evidence from them or throw out subpoenas or those other things, it will take a lot longer. And so that's why I do say, don't throw away phones. Don't delete your text messages. Yeah. Don't clean out your email. Keep that stuff. And I think a lot of this is, I hate to say it, but it is foreknowledge. If you think that there's problems, or you think your partner is capable of making these things, you need to be very careful. You need to document these things. I know it's not always possible to separate, but if you are in a situation where you know you can't trust that other party, you need to prepare yourself.
Well, I think the other thing, too, that you see a lot of times is that guys will find themselves accused of domestic violence, but when you actually dig into the situation, they've been victims of significantly more severe occurrences than what they're being accused of. But guys are 6 or 7 times less likely. It's something like 90% of restraining orders are filed by women.
Yeah, and there's usually some evidence of projecting. Like, they're going to accuse you of what they've done to you. And that's, I know, infuriating to a lot of our clients. And that's why you've got to be so careful on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I think here's what I take away is that defending false allegations is extremely challenging. Proving something that didn't occur is extremely challenging. Proving the lack of existence of something is extremely challenging. But we live in a time today where there's so much of a digital footprint, whether it be your Ring doorbell, whether it be your cell phone, whether it be text messages, Facebook messages, social media posts, you have a better chance of proving that something most likely didn't happen. But you have to take an active role in proving that, and that can be very frustrating.
Yeah, and I want to point out to some people here, especially where there's been some mutual combat or there's been blows back and forth. It's a violent, toxic relationship. You need to file a competing DV claim, because when we get to trial and you try to bring up this other evidence of this violence against you or the setup that has come forward, if you don't have that DV, the judge is going to say, we're not here today to figure out if DV's been done to you, sir. Yeah. We're here today to figure out if DV's been done on that day. And so you've got to expand that back out. Yeah. You've got to fight back. And guys never want to do this, and you suffer for it.
Yeah, it's a one-way until you file that competing DV. If the competing DV is something that's true and necessary, yes. You'll always want to clear that. You're not just filing it to file it, but usually there's an instance where I would say probably 50 to 75% of DVs, dueling DVs, should be occurring. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of whether the guy is willing to file that. But it is one way. When you go in there and if it's not competing DVs, you are just there to prove that you did not abuse them. It's the only other thing would be essentially what would amount to affirmative defense of they were the aggressor.
Correct. But you don't get to bring in the other stuff that they've done to you that sets this up and shows that, hey, on this incident, it's more than likely than not, she gave you a black eye over here. You have a video of her instigating an argument. You have Ring camera footage of her going crazy. You're not going to be able to bring that in realistically unless you've already filed your DV. You can give it a shot, but judges hate it when you try to expand. They're going to try to limit the issues. You're going to hear a judge say, well, I think this is simple. This doesn't need to take that long. I don't need to hear that other evidence. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Right? Especially if you're going to show on the single incident, more likely than not, that you committed the crime. Well, if you can show this pattern of violence and conduct towards you, it's more likely that you can defend for that allegation on that specific day and time.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your insights on defending these false allegations. To our listeners and viewers, I hope you found this informative, educational, hopefully a little bit entertaining, and we'll see you guys all next week on another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook.